All right, so it looks like we are recording. So welcome everyone. Second week of lockdown, moving into third week of lockdown. So I hope that you're all okay and safe in your bubbles. So this morning's class, I've suggested you gathering either a belt or strap of some kind. And if you don't have something like that, then you could grab a scarf. That should suffice. Something that's not going to be too stretchy and that you can put a little bit of tension on. So just having them, gathering them and having them next to your practice space. And then I've also suggested taking a cushion, just a sofa cushion, if you have one, and also a couple of blankets. So I said 2 to 3 blankets or towels, and preferably one fairly heavy blanket. And what you may like to do to start off with is just fold it into a long rectangle. So I've just gone in half and then in half again. So I've got a long rectangle, heavy-ish blanket. And don't worry if it's not very heavy or if it's a towel, just make do with what you have, but just have that ready for in a moment. So today's practice will be all on the ground. I've also asked you to be near a chair, a sofa or an armchair. I've actually got a fold out chair, like a dining room chair. So whatever you can find, and you could set yourself up there now near your chair, or you could move there once we get towards the end of the session. And if that's too hard baskets, then don't worry, you can do a fairly simple shavasana at the end if that feels simpler for you. So yes, today's practice is going to be floor focused. I personally find with my practice in uncertain times, I find the ground. I find that really helpful for just getting grounded and feeling supported and stable. So we'll be on the ground for the whole class. And what I'd like to introduce to you is this word interoception. And it's kind of the fancy word for saying it's a sense where our mind knows or feels our body state. And that's through receptors within our internal organs. And this interoceptive sense is integral to our yoga practice and our meditation practice. And it's really the doorway into ourselves and our moment-to-moment awareness. Now, in the development of this through contemplative practices like yoga and meditation, we become more skilled with this sense, this inward sense, interoceptive sense, meaning that we can tune in to how our body feels. And within doing that, gaining an understanding of where we're at moment to moment. And as we refine that sense and refine that capacity to tune in, we can notice how certain things affect us, how certain reactions and thoughts bring on a certain internal state, and therefore make choices that bring more ease in our life. So in this morning's practice, as all practices that we do together, could you plant a seed of intention to allow yourself to feel what you feel? To allow yourself to feel what you feel and be open to that. I know it can be challenging when there's discomfort or challenge, but if we're not being with how we feel, then we are closing off from how we feel, and therefore there can be this sense of battling or sense of rejecting the truth of our life and our state within it. So before you lie down on the floor, I'm just going to demonstrate. We're going to do a little bit of work on our pelvis and our hips, and I'd just like to remind you or demonstrate two different movements. So an external rotation, and you may already be aware of this, an external rotation is moving outwards. So if we're externally rotating the legs, we're externally rotating at the thigh bones and we're turning the leg outwards. And if we're internally rotating, then we're moving in the other direction. So we're moving internally towards the midline of the body. So external rotation, opening, internal rotation, closing. So I'm just mirroring with my arm as well. So just having a visual of that, and then lying yourself on the ground. And I'm actually not going to use a mat today because I've got carpet underneath me. And the reason for that is that I'd like you to have a slidey surface underneath your legs. So if you're on carpet, then you may just be comfortable lying down on your carpet. If you're not, then you may like your mat and then a blanket on top. So some kind of surface where if you slid your legs or your arms, there wouldn't be the friction of your sticky mat. And make sure that you are comfortable. So you may like to bring your cushion underneath your head. And what I suggest that you do here is, if you're coming into Shavasana, so with your legs extending away, I suggest you take your pre-folded blanket and place it over your pelvis and the lower abdomen. So you may or may not be comfortable with your legs outstretched like this. You could come into a comfortable constructive rest position. But if you are, extend your legs away and having that heavier blanket just resting on the upper pelvic or the pelvic bowl and the lower abdomen. And resting your arms wherever they feel comfortable to rest. I'm just going to give you a moment to find that supine position and to arrive. And you might like to take some longer exhales, maybe even out of your mouth. A sigh like arrival into your body, into this shape, in your own space today. How does that feel? And just arriving, sinking your weight down into the ground. And I invite you to place your hands somewhere on your body that feels soothing this morning. It might be on your abdomen, might be one hand on your chest, one hand on your abdomen. It might be on your thighs, might not be on your body at all. But if it feels soothing, placing your hands somewhere on your body. And you may like to close your eyes or soften your gaze. Softening the muscles around your eyes as you give up looking and extending your energy outwards. Softening around your jaw. Relaxing into the area of your heart. And as you gently sink your attention downwards, can you feel into your abdominal cavity? So that space beneath your diaphragm, above your pubic bone. And starting to invite your breathing body into your awareness, your natural breathing rhythm. And remembering you don't need to think about this. Your body will just breathe naturally how it needs to breathe without the need for control. But could you tune into the felt sense of this breath in your body right here? Where do you feel a sense of expansion? of condensing as you breathe out. Where do you feel an opening and a closing? And as you slow down, as you tune in, also reflecting on how you feel this morning. And I don't mean think about how you feel, I mean feel. What is the feeling tone within your body here? Does the body feel heavy and tired, lethargic? Does it feel energized and light? If there's any emotions arising here as you slow the body down, how do they feel? What is their quality? And wherever your hands are right now, I invite you to slide them down into the lower region of your abdomen. That might be one hand or both hands. And if you'd like to, very gently starting to invite your breath down into your lower abdomen. And exploring a breath intention called balloon breath. So balloon breath is not a natural way that we breathe, but it's a very helpful breathing intention to soothe the nervous system and to focus the mind. So you could imagine that you are breathing in through your navel and then breathing out and expending breath through your navel as the belly deflates. And you don't need to overexert here or strain. You can keep the breath fairly natural. It might be a little deeper as you invite your breath to inflate your belly like a little balloon, and then deflating as if you were exhaling out of your navel. Not only noticing the feeling of this breathing intention in the belly, but also could you feel how this is influencing a little further down into your pelvis, and maybe even getting a sense of effect of the breath or quality of the breath in your hip joints. So over the next 5 abdominal breaths or balloon breaths, could you see if you could soften a little more fully to allow your breath to move more freely? Not necessarily bigger, but just more freely without a restriction. A very gentle attention on this balloon-like breath in the abdomen. As you feel this whole abdominal cavity, including your pelvis, your hip joints, settling your attention on your breath. So letting this intention go now. And if your legs are extended away, could you bend your knees so your feet come into a constructive rest position on the floor? And find a position for your feet where your legs and your belly can be as relaxed as possible. So you might just have a little explore for yourself where that is. And you might rest your hands down by your side. You might keep them on your body. And from here, could you consciously soften into your hip joints? So there is an element of activation because your legs are in a held position. But how might it be to consciously soften, melt into your hip joints or inner groin and your very lowest part of your abdomen and the pelvic floor muscles? And you may do this on your exhale, that might be helpful. And just gently feel into this part of your body. How does it feel as you invite it to soften? And you can just allow your breath to breathe how it needs to breathe. No intention of breath here, unless it's perhaps a slightly extended exhale to encourage a quality of softening. And then from here, exploring how it feels. And it's very different teaching online than in class because there isn't so much triggering to adapt or change because I can't see what you're doing necessarily. So I'm just leaving it to you to adjust or adapt the movement in any way that you feel is necessary for your body today. So please make wise choices. But if it feels comfortable to, allowing your right knee to start to move towards the floor in an external rotation. So I'm coming onto the side of my foot and then I'm replacing the sole of my foot before lowering the left knee towards the floor. So this external rotation in the thigh and the hip joint. And keeping the stable knee fairly neutral, so the knee's pointing up towards the ceiling, but there will be a bit of a rocking through the pelvis. Don't brace, don't allow that rocking to, don't prevent that rocking to happen. Allow a natural movement to occur. And it may be that the knee doesn't come down very far towards the floor at all. That might just be where your body needs to go today. Being very slow with your movement as you start to feel how this external rotation, alternating from hip to hip, feels. How does this movement feel in your hip joint right now? Are you noticing a quality of dryness in these joints, of lubrication, of warmth, coolness? What do you feel in your hip joints, upper thigh? You might even be sensing into your lower back, your sacrum. And just finishing the left side, finishing on the left side. And heel toeing your feet a little bit wider. So you're coming into quite a wide constructive rest position. So your feet, if you were lying on a mat, your feet would be about the width of your mat. And we'll go to an internal rotation here. So starting with the right leg, again, moving at your own pace, your own rhythm, lowering your right knee in towards the midline of your body before bringing it back up. And it's likely that there won't be as much movement here than on external rotation. And I'm keeping my stable leg fairly neutral. So it's not moving much at all. It's stabilizing the pelvis as I allow my right knee to move in. And there will be a rocking in your pelvic bowl. So allow that to happen. How does it feel moving your hips, your legs in this way this morning, or whenever you're doing your practice? And finishing on the left side again, before sliding your legs away. And just take a moment in a really relaxed Shavasana position. You might just briefly shake the legs out a little, shake the pelvis out a little, and then just arrive here. Just arrive. Really surrendering the weight of your legs to the ground. And just noticing what you notice, if there's any sensations, movements, shifts that are happening here. Could you soften into your hip joints, into your pelvis? And after that asymmetrical movement, let's just bring the legs back up to constructive rest again. And just find some symmetry through some arches and flattening of the lower back. So we're just rocking the pelvis backwards and forwards. As I rock forwards, the lower back arches. As I rock back, the lower back flattens. And just continually shifting the weight. And influencing the hips and the pelvis in a different way here. On this sagittal plane, how does that feel as you rock forwards and backwards? And if there isn't much feeling there, there's a feeling of sort of numbness, or it's very hard to take your attention there, just be with that. Be with what you feel. Allow yourself to open up to that numbness or to that lack of feeling. Good. So once you've done a few flatten and arches of that pelvic rock, come back to Shavasana. Let your legs be nice and heavy and relaxed, and let them just flop out to the sides how they naturally would. So in this movement, we start through an external rotation. So we bend the right knee as we externally rotate the thigh. And just coming as high as feels comfortable before placing the foot on the floor, knee points up towards the ceiling. Opening the knee back to that external rotation and sliding the leg back to Shavasana, to a relaxed extended leg. Trying the other side if that's feeling okay for you. And the movement is slow, but the intention is a very heavy, relaxed, effortless as possible movement. So you do need a slidey surface underneath you. So if you're finding that there's a bit of friction going on, you may need some socks on, may need to change the surface underneath you. I'm just moving from side to side, feeling into that external rotation and then finding neutral on that one side before opening and sliding. I'll take a couple more just as is. You notice yourself rushing or hurrying. Just gently, intentionally slow the movement down. See if as you slow the movement down, you can still maintain an effortless and fluid movement. And once you've finished your left side here, we're just going to add a little bit to this. So the next time your right knee slides up and placing the right foot on the floor, we'll just keep the knee where it is, pointing up towards your ceiling, pressing into the right foot and just allow the pelvis to rock. Allow the spine to rotate somewhat. It's as if I'm reaching my knee forward slightly. And then retreating back, and this time sliding the foot down through the center, down on its forward path. So on the left side, we open the left knee, externally rotating, placing the left foot on the floor, and then pressing into the left foot as the knee maintains its position, pointing towards the ceiling. Pelvis rocks. I'm tilting most of my weight or more of my weight onto my right side. And then lowering back down, sliding the foot forwards. Just try that for yourself. Maybe another 4 times, twice on each side. And I'm teaching this in sections, but how might it be to try and merge the movements together so there becomes this lovely, fluid, easeful quality to the movement. And of course, I'm demonstrating to give you an idea of the movement, but you can adapt it. It might look bigger than this, it might look smaller than this. You might change it completely if this isn't suiting you. And just taking another pause once you've finished this left side. And you slide your left leg away so that both legs are extended. Just take a brief pause for a moment. How is it to rest in stillness briefly? Just to take a pause. Just to reflect. Reflect meaning not to think about, but just to be like a mirror or like a completely still lake, this reflection of the truth of the experience, the truth of the image. How does it feel as you pause? So let's continue on a little bit deeper into this exploration of the hip joints. Let's bend the knees back up to constructive rest. You can do that in any way you'd like. And moving back to that little sequence we were doing, we slide the right leg away. The left knee is bent, the left foot's on the floor. We externally rotate the right thigh. As we place the right foot on the floor, we explore that foot pressing and lifting of or rocking of the pelvis. And I'm allowing my left knee to move towards the floor here. So there's becoming a little bit more movement through my pelvis. As I rock back, my knees return. A little addition here. I'm going to bend my right knee in towards the body, extend the right heel up towards the ceiling, and my knee is staying bent. You might straighten your leg. And then very slowly, if this is within your comfort range, lowering the leg back down to the floor, keeping your left foot there to stabilize. All the way down to the floor before you relax it completely, externally rotate it back to meet the left foot. So that again, I slide the left leg away, externally rotate the left thigh, up to constructive rest. Press into the left foot to rotate the pelvis. I'm just letting the right knee respond this time, letting the pelvis completely rotate, the spine to play as well. From here, the little addition is to bend the left knee in, extend the heel, and slowly lower the leg, keeping some stability through the pelvic bowl and through your right leg as you lower, just at the speed that feels right for you. Relaxing the leg down, externally rotate the left leg to meet the right. So that's a little sequence that you can explore. I'll keep explaining it. So I'm going to slide the right leg away, externally rotate the knee, press the right foot into the floor, and I might let the left leg go all the way down to the floor to really allow a rotation, a sort of spiraling, a squeezing action through the spine. Drawing the knee in towards the chest, extending the heel, slowly lowering down. This might be quicker for you, or it might be slower, or the knee might be really bent. And then returning back to constructive rest. Left side, sliding the leg down, opening the knee, pressing into the left leg, allowing the spine to rotate. Both legs come back as the spine returns. Extending the foot and slowly lowering, or lowering at your own pace. Stabilizing through your right leg. And you might rest, or you might like to do that sequence one more time. Finding your own quality of fluidity, your own timing. Stabilizing through the supporting leg when you need it. What happens with the pelvic bowl? Could you just allow organic movement to occur? So not bracing anywhere. Allowing that lovely fluid flowing quality. And then just arriving in whatever restful shape you would like. That might be knees bent and feet on the floor. That might be legs extended away. Be with any residue from that sequence. And just notice whether you feel more embodied, more present in your body, and maybe more particularly down in your lower body. So I forgot to mention that you may have taken off your belly blanket to do that movement. If you didn't, you may already still have it on there. But you can slide that away from you now. And what I've done is folded mine in half. So I've got my long abdominal blanket, which is then folded in half. You may need to get off the floor to do that. And then from this bent knee position with the feet on the floor, as I lift my pelvis just slightly above the floor, I'm just going to place that folded blanket underneath the pelvis. You could also do this with your pillow. And as you lift the pelvis, if your head is on your pillow, and if it feels as if your neck is being, or your throat is being really restricted and your chin is really moving in towards your chest, you may like to remove your pillow. It might feel okay, in which case you could keep it there. So the support is underneath your pelvis, and just check that that's okay for you today. You may want to come a little lower. You may come a little higher. You might put your pillow underneath your pelvis as well if you want a little bit more height there. This might be familiar to you. We do this in the in-person classes as well. And once you've arrived in this slightly suspended pelvic position, you could explore drawing your right knee in towards your body. You could take hold of the front of the leg, the back of the thigh, or you don't need to hold onto the leg at all if that's uncomfortable. And then if you'd like to, sliding your left leg away and very gently just extending through your left thigh as you ease the right knee in towards you. Now, I'm definitely not pulling on the leg and gripping it into the body. It's a very gentle, subtle extension as we extend down through the left and the thigh and the psoas muscle. And it can be quite nice just to oscillate with your breath So as you inhale, the leg just softens away from the body. As you exhale, the leg may draw in a little closer, all the while keeping the left foot flexed. Perhaps a couple more breaths here. But you be the judge of how long you spend in the posture. And when you're ready to swap legs, placing the right foot onto the floor, bringing the left foot up to join it, and just take a moment just in symmetry for a moment. Before coming on the left side, drawing the left knee in, either holding it or not, sliding the right leg away, flexing through the right thigh, through the right foot, extending through the thigh. And then you may invite that oscillating movement with breath. Make your practice your own, so making choices based on how this is feeling for you. We're really not striving for any particular outcome here. The intention is to lengthen down through this inner thigh region, but if you need to keep the right knee bent, foot on the floor, then do so. And making your own decision when it's time to finish, resting the left foot back on the floor, bringing the right foot back to meet it. And just arriving back here in symmetry. And before coming out of this suspended position, you could, if you'd like, try an Apanasana, full Apanasana, so both knees drawing in towards the body. That can feel really lovely and lengthening for your lower back. Only if this is feeling comfortable and not too much compression happening in the abdomen or the chest. And a nice thing you could do here to explore is just to open the knees a little bit wider. Just open up into the groins a little bit, into the pelvis. And if that feels comfortable for you, relaxing into the hip joints, the toes, the abdomen. And when you're ready to come out, then replacing the feet one by one to the floor. Lifting the pelvis, sliding your blanket away, and just take a moment here just to arrive with your pelvis and back onto the ground again. Noticing what you notice here. Can you be completely present with how you feel right now? Abandon yourself to this moment. What is present for you here as you welcome your experience just as it is, without any wish to change it, to manipulate it. So there's another invitation for a practice before we come into our final rest. And for this, we'll use the strap or the scarf that hopefully you have nearby. You could also use a blanket. I've done this before, just rolling up a blanket. So you've got a long, you just need something long that you can hold on to each side. And we start here with both knees bent and feet on the floor. So when you're ready, and if you'd like to, drawing the right knee in towards you, placing your strap around the ball of your foot, so the widest part of your foot, and start to explore extending your right foot up towards your ceiling. Now, you may want to adjust the length of your strap and where you're holding. We want the shoulders to be as relaxed as possible. And the toes are pointing in the direction behind you, so they're not sort of on an external rotation or an internal rotation. The foot is parallel. And just be very gently here. We're not looking for a very deep stretch, just a subtle lengthening down the back of the leg. Very gently opening structures and the connective tissue down the back of the ankle all the way to the pelvis, where the hamstrings join the sit bones. And just settling here. Notice if your tailbone is wanting to curl and reach up towards the ceiling. Try to gently anchor your sacrum towards the floor to allow that natural lumbar arch in your lower back, that natural curve in your lower back. We're not flattening the lower back to the floor here. So from here, exploring, if you'd like, a little sort of windscreen wiper foot. So we move from an external rotation, so externally rotating the thigh, and then internally rotating the thigh. So if I mirror it with my arm, I'm going to externally rotate my thigh, so it's coming from my thigh bone, and then internally rotate, as if you were wiping a window, waving to an astronaut. And then coming back to neutral and taking both straps into your left hand. You might like to just slide the strap down into the arch of your foot here if you'd like. I'm going to let my left knee drop. It's quite subtle, you might not be able to see it very well, but I'm just going to let it drop into the midline of my body and then internally rotate my right thigh. Internally rotate my right thigh. Very gently easing the right toes in the direction of my left shoulder. Now again, this can be quite a strong sensation for many. It's really strong for me today because I've done lots of gardening over the weekend. So be very gentle, honoring how this feels in your body and using your interoceptive sense, the sense of if this is too strong for you or not, to make a choice as to how far you go. Being with your breath can be helpful here to stay aware and focused. And then when you're ready to come out of this shape, we swap hands again. So both straps come into the right hand. And this time I quite like the strap coming down a bit further towards my heel. The knee comes towards the body, so the left foot comes off the floor. And this time it's an external rotation. So I externally rotate my thigh in the hip joint and then open the leg and the knee together. So I quite like, it depends how open the hips are, but if your elbow comes to the floor, then you could use that as a bit of a rest. Otherwise, you can keep the shoulder blade down on the floor and you can gently, if it's coming towards the screen there towards you, you can gently just press into that strap of the heel. You can add some more stability through the leg and the hip joint. Now again, only staying here for as long as feels enough for you. We're not looking for a really strong sensation. We might go a little bit less into the posture to prevent that. To come out, when you're ready, draw the legs back towards one another. Remove the strap. You may like just take a moment in symmetry with the knees drawing in or with the feet on the floor. And then making your own way over to your left side. So the strap starts into the ball of the foot. You prepare your shoulders so that your arms aren't straining. So we're just using a little bit of tension, a little bit of help here. I'm not pulling down on my leg. I'm just assisting it. Checking with your tail. Your tail wants to tuck up. Just gently anchor the weight of your pelvis down. Giving yourself and your body the chance to arrive in this shape, in this lengthening. Notice where there is unnecessary tension creeping in, whether that be the jaw or the abdomen. And then if you'd like, you could explore the windscreen wipers on the left leg. So I'm externally rotating the thigh in the hip joint. And that means that my whole leg rotates and my foot waggles as if I'm waving. The foot stays fairly parallel to the ceiling. And the movement is initiated by the thigh bone or by top of the thigh inside the hip joint. And then from there, both the straps come into the right hand. I'm just going to lower the strap into the arch of my foot, let my right knee knock inwards, and then turn my left foot on an internal rotation. So I'm not sickling my foot, or I'm trying not to sickle my foot. It's the whole leg that turns on that internal rotation. And then I quite like having my left fat hand on the thigh, just to anchor it down as the leg moves across the body. And it's really in the direction of the right shoulder here, but we're not straining to lift the leg. It doesn't need to come all the way across the body. The pelvis stays on the floor, the sacrum stays on the floor. Knee might be really bent here. It might be moving in the direction of straight. And you'll get a sense as to how your positioning of your foot influences the sensations down the leg. The more flexed your foot is, the more deeper you'll probably feel it. The foot's a little more relaxed, then it might be a little less strong, which can be quite relieving if it feels too strong. And then lastly, when you're ready to, I'm just going to slide my strap down towards my heel, drawing the right knee in this time, externally rotating the left thigh. And both knees are moving together. So I'm trying to move in unison, left leg, right leg, as I open both away from one another. And again, trying to find just the position that feels sustainable for your arms. And we're not pressing down on the legs, we're just gently supporting them as they open. If the legs start to get a little shaky or quivery, try going a little less. Try to maybe bend the knee slightly more if that's happening. And you be the judge when it's time to come out. And when it is time to come out, removing the strap, placing it to the side, having a little shake out of the legs, really shaking the flesh off the bones, shaking the thighs. Oh, that's really sweet. I can see little feet waggling in the air. It's great. And when you've had enough of that, placing your feet back down to the floor. And just before we come into full stillness, it's really important just to stabilize the pelvis again after that opening here. So this time, constructive rest, the feet are wherever feels most comfortable. For this, we want the heels underneath the knees. And we're just coming up into a low bridge. So remembering a low bridge, we curl the tail towards the pubic bone towards the navel, as if we're trying to tuck a tail underneath us and between our legs. And it's just the sacrum really that comes off the floor, maybe part of the lower back. Stabilizing, you can feel some engagement occurring through your lowest part of your abdomen. And then when you're ready to unfurl, do so gradually. And if that felt okay in your body today, try that again. Curling tail towards pubic bone towards navel. So there's this curling of the pelvis. So you raise it just off the floor. And then retreating, replacing. Good. So I'd like to suggest a final resting place, but of course you make your own decision. This is just a suggestion. So if you're placed by your sofa or an armchair, I'm going to use this chair, which isn't ideal, and I'll tell you why in a moment, but preferably you are by your sofa or a comfortable armchair. So you might like to have your cushion ready behind you, and I'm going to show you a slightly different way of using a cushion, and actually I'll show you now because I'm sitting up. This is something I learned from Judith Lassiter recently. She taught to put the pillow in this direction, so the point facing down, and the point is actually underneath, well, it's a little bit closer, it could be sort of C7, so the lowest part of your cervical spine, or it could be a little lower. And then once I'm lying down, say I'm lying down here, I might turn that top corner underneath and just bunch it all into the nook of my neck, and that can just create a really lovely nest for your head. Now, what we don't want to happen is when we pull the pillow underneath itself, is that the chin bunches up and the forehead comes a lot higher than the chin. We want the chin and the head to be fairly on the same level, and I'll just demonstrate that one when I come into it. Hopefully you can see with the sun, the lovely sun coming through the window. So it's going to vary depending on what chair you are setting yourself up on. So you've done this with me before, so you'll be used to setting yourself up here. I might just put a blanket there underneath my ankles, or I might just cover the whole chair actually. So when you put your legs on your chair, if your feet are a lot lower than your knees, you may want to just pad up the ankle area like we would do in a class. Now for me, I'm going to bring my strap with me. Actually, no, I'm going to bring my scarf, but it doesn't matter which one you've got. And you may want a blanket, you may want that heavy blanket if it's still available, ready to put back onto the area of the pelvis and the lower belly. So this is slightly different to how we would set ourselves up in class. So what I'm going to try and do here is set myself up so that my knees and my hips are in line. So my hips are just underneath my knees. I'll just sit up my head first. So the point of the pillow is going down my spine around sort of C7 or T2 maybe. And then the other corner, the other angle, I'm going to fold underneath itself and just bunch it all in. just to support the nook of my neck. And what I'm trying to have here is my chin and my forehead about the same height, rather than really closing in on the throat, which doesn't feel very nice. So here, when I do this on my sofa, I can do this without having to hold my legs. I'm going to open my knees wider than my feet, and my feet are together. I don't know if you can see that. So normally we would have our legs just slightly apart or maybe together, but here I'm going to open my knees so that my knees are a lot wider than my feet. And for me, I'm having to hold my legs here with this chair. If I was on my sofa, because there's more surface area supporting the outside of the legs, then you probably won't need to hold yourself there. So just have a sense of that as you get yourself set up. The important thing here really is that we're not holding the legs. I really want you to be able to completely relax your thighs in this open position. So the knees are wider than the hips here. Now, if this isn't working for you, just take whatever position is. But if you are having to hold your thighs, then I find just tying the legs with a strap, and you might use your belt, that just takes any effort out of my legs. And I'm able just to allow them just to open gently without having to hold them. And then if you've got your heavy blanket, you may put it all the way over you. If your space is a little chilly or your body temperature is dropping, you might just like it over your abdomen and your pelvis. And oh, it's quite nice just to tuck it right into the body here, and that feels nice and held and supported. And you can place your hands wherever they feel comfortable. If you've got a spare blanket or jumper or something near you, you might put that over your eyes if you've got the joy of having lovely sun streaming through your window. So sadly, I'm not there with you to bring you more blankets and set you up, but I'm sure you're very capable of finding a lovely, comfortable rest here. And I'm just going to give you another minute or so, 20 seconds really, just to get yourself set up and just to arrive. And as you arrive, you might take some sigh-like exhales. Even making a noise, you're in your own space here, you're not going to disturb anyone. And you just recognize that all the doing has stopped. You don't need to do anything here in your rest. And maybe there's a relief that comes from that. And if there isn't a relief from the mind, then there is likely to be a relief from a deeper place within you. This deeper place that knows what you need and what is good for you. So arriving into this place of rest, inviting your body to move towards stillness. Now, of course, move. The body becomes uncomfortable, move. But if you find somewhere that feels really held and supported, then stay still for a while. And feel how your head is being supported. And as you sense into the quality of that support, just allowing the head to rest. You don't need to hold it. The muscles around the neck, the skull can soften. Feeling how your shoulder blades meet the ground. And then sensing along the length of your back into all the places that have contact with the ground beneath you. There might be areas of the back that have more contact, have more pressure, and others that have less. So just feeling into your back. And on the next couple of exhales, inviting the back to meet the ground more fully. As if your skin of your back could spread and meet the ground more fully with each exhale. Feeling the weight of your pelvis and just how it sits here in this position. Can you feel that place where your legs join your pelvis? And starting to trace your attention along the length of your legs as you give them permission to rest, as you surrender them to gravity. Your legs becoming more weighty, your feet and toes soft. Giving yourself some time, giving your body the time to let go into this position, legs supported on chair. Giving them time to respond to the no need of effort. As your legs become more restful, you start to get a sense of the inner line of your leg. So starting at the arch of your feet, gently tracing a line up through the inner leg to the inner knee, and from the inner knee all the way to the hip joint, through the inner groins, where your leg meets your pelvis. And as you sense into this part of your body, softening more fully, as if this inner groin, inner thigh, the region of your body was melting. With that melting sense, could the pelvic floor also relax more fully? Or the intricate supportive structures of the thigh and the hip joint, could they soften more fully? As your body knows that the doing is stopped, you can sense the safety of being able to relax into that support. Belly soft, allowing your breath to move freely, uninhibited. Settling into this calm place of being behind all the action in our lives. within your own resting space, can you get a sense of the room around you or the little area around your body resting within itself? No intention, no striving, it's just resting. Inviting that same still quality within you. Heart settling. Perhaps getting a sense, however vague it might be, of a peaceful and still place, just resting in the background of your experience. So there will be movement of the breath, there will be changing sensations. There'll be arising and passings of the mind and thoughts, perhaps emotions. But behind all of that, as if you were sinking down into the most comfortable armchair, sink down into that backdrop. That quality of stillness that's always present behind our lives. Can you rest here? Be here in this natural state of rest. This true essence of your being. Sinking down into your experience. No effort. No willful control. Just resting. Perhaps just savouring this place, this peaceful, calm quality that is always there as our refuge. And sometimes we know it, sometimes we don't, but just recognizing, acknowledging that it is there supporting our lives. And as you take a couple of conscious breaths here, your inhalation arising out of that stillness, your exhale dissolving, dissipating back into that stillness. Knowing that you are held and welcomed and loved as you rest here in this pure state of being. Starting to broaden your awareness to feel the shape of your body again as it rests. Feeling the physical shape of your body. Can you feel the skeleton and how it supports your body? Bones in your legs, your thighs, your pelvis. Can you feel the outline of your body? Can you feel that outline gradually emerging into your awareness as you feel the weight of your body? Feel the weight of your body. Feel where your body meets the ground. All of those points of contact meeting the ground or your chair. Physically present. Before you begin to move your body again, just giving yourself the chance to use your interoceptive sense, so this ability to feel how you feel. What is the feeling tone residing with you here? You don't need to analyze it or even put a name to it or label it, just being open to how you feel. And as you move back out into your day, transitioning very slowly back into it, could you keep some of this awareness as you move into the activities, conversations, chores? Can there be some of this interoceptive sense? How am I feeling? Can I make decisions and choices based on the messages I'm receiving? You stay with that intention as you invite some movement back into your body again. Natural, gentle movements. And be careful not to just jump straight out of your practice. Go slow. Slowly transition your way. And because you're doing this at home or in your own space, you could just turn off this recording and you might rest longer if that's what you're being called to do. I always encourage lengthier rests when the body needs it. And you'll find your own way out. I'll just close this recording by wishing you well, and may this practice serve and support you through this time of not being able to meet together. And I hope that there is some feeling of support and connection. Go well. Namaste.